What's going on, Bros? Welcome back to another Brawl Mithra video. Today, we're going to be taking a very close squint at the teaser images shown in the last Kingdom Death Kickstarter update, trying to read through everything and give you all the spoilers you want to know for the content that we could read.
Yeah. Luckily, Aluminum sat down with me, and we were able to go through all these images. I guess if there's spoilers, that's what we're going to talk about. So,
you've been warned.
Yeah, basically you've been warned. I don't know. Some of it's just going to be going over like Red Witch rules and stuff. I don't know. I don't think that's spoiler and stuff. So
I mean, lots of people don't want to engage with content until they've like wholeheartedly run into it in the game, right? So if you're one of those types of players, this video probably isn't for you. We're just going into the details, what we could read, what we couldn't.
The images that we're going to look at today are the Red Witch books. I know the images for Red Witches, I talked about this in the other, that they have their own color-coded boxes, which is really neat. We can now see in the rulebook, after reading the rules on this, these definitely are the levels that it's going to be. Brawl is definitely level 1. Brawl and Nico are definitely level 2 showdown. And then all three of them are the level 3. So it's really nicely color-coded them this way as well.
I think this is a really cool... Sorry, go ahead.
It's also the initiative order, right?
Right.
Yes. Brawl will always act first, then Nico, then Seer. So that's kind of cool too.
I think this is a really cool kind of showcase at the kind of hints, because we did that video a long time ago now.
Yeah.
Talking about how this was teased, and it's really why you have to pay close attention to the images that they show you, because they actually do often show us quite a bit more than is maybe apparent at first glance.
So we're going to start with the table of contents for Red Witches. This large image.
We're the first image that they show in the update that has like blurry text is the Red Cannon page for the Red Witches, but it's pretty much impossible to read. So that one we're going to have to evaluate later on. The only thing I can, I guess, mention right off looking at it right now is it has like the first roll is like 1 to 13, and it looks like 14 plus.
Yes.
Yeah, that's interesting. It'll be based on some kind of modifier that will adjust your roll.
Yeah, probably.
But obviously, that's a pretty hard modifier to beat, right? So maybe evasion or something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, just passing over Red Cannon quickly. The first kind of page that we want to go over is the table of contents page. So this is the page that shows the artwork of Fade trying to evade the Red Witches in like the Sword Hunter chamber kind of thing. This is presumably right after she stole the Sword of Silence and is trying to get her. Well, she has the Sword of Silence already from the artwork. The sword's missing in the background, right?
Yeah, this is like she's running away. She just grabbed it.
Yeah. So yeah, we just wanted to quickly go over the kind of the contents of the page. A lot of what it says is just kind of standard stuff. Talks about Node 2 Nemesis monsters, how to add the Red Witches to your campaign, and then the card contents of the expansion, which that text was too small, so we couldn't
make it out.
Decipher that. But the table of contents gives us an idea of kind of the story events that we're going to see in the game. So we've done our best to read these, and the story events are as follows. So the first pages are obviously the Red Witches in your campaign, and then there's the rules section, the like nodes and stuff.
Yeah.
There's like 2 pages for that. Anyway, the introduction event for the Red Witches is called Challenger at the Gates. We haven't seen any artwork for this, but
we have.
Presumably,
this is the Gen Con one, or presumably, this is the Gen Con one with Brawl screaming at the gates.
Oh, can you post that? I forgot about that piece of artwork. I know which one you're talking about.
Yes, that was one of the Gen Con prints. Presumably, that is that. We can make this informed opinion because, as we see later well, not later. Other rule books describe how to add the Red Witch. Other rulebook pages describe how to add Red Witch to your campaign, and you don't add Challenger at the gates when you're not doing a brawl, where you're not doing a level 1 fight with just brawl. When you're doing level 2 and level 3, like for People of the Stars, People of the Sun, then you don't do Challenger at the gates.
Yeah. So yeah, actually the page where it shows their showdowns, it says Nemesis encounter Brawl. Brawl stands before the settlement alone. Her hunger for battle rages out of control. So it just seems like she's probably like just unhinged basically, and is kind of gets reined in by Nico and probably Seer the most, keeping her under control. And without them, she's just showing up at settlements and fighting survivors.
So next we have a visit from Nico is the next story event, which we're assuming is the one art with like Nico interrogating a survivor.
Seductively interrogating a survivor. Yes. She's got like a knife to a guy's stomach. Mm-hmm. People pay good money for that.
Yeah. We don't... well, nothing indicates that there's multiple story events for each of the showdown escalations, right? Like, it looks like the Challenger at the gates is the first story event, and then that's it, right? Like, the level 2 and level 3 aren't going to have story events, because it didn't mention that when we looked at when we saw People of the Sun, People of the Stars. So, Challenger at the gates is probably the introduction event.
Yeah, that's maybe a fair assumption to make. I'm wondering if it's like an escalation through the aftermath section of the showdown. Like you're adding like, you know, a visit from Nico to the timeline. You know, the timeline after that, and so on so forth. Mm-hmm. It's that's got to be how it escalates, I guess. The next event shown is Elastomer Mines. So this is something that we had seen in one of the updates. This is likely it's like a special settlement event where we're able to.
This is the
special hunt event.
Yeah, that's the special hunt event where you swap in with the red cloak.
No, that's Red Incursion.
Oh yes. Red Incursion is the one where you swap in. Elastomer Mines where you actually roll to get stuff.
Yeah, I think Elastomer Mines is going to be a special hunt event where you're able to get into the mines. Maybe it's triggered through Red Incursion or something like that. Yeah. But presumably this is going to be a way for us to probably get Elastomer as a strange resource for using to build some of the Red Witch gear.
Yes. And to be clear, we've seen this one. We've seen this one actually called Elastomer Mines in one of the book pages, so we know that's what it says. Yeah.
I'm wondering if we should have gone back and tried to read those pages too. Jeez.
Oh, those were really small compared to these.
Yeah, I remember. I think we tried reading them.
Yeah, we did.
I feel like my skills at reading them have improved after this.
Next is the one I talked about, referenced earlier. This is called Escape the Grand Library. This is probably the artwork we saw with the Twilight Knights and Lori, or what appears to be Lori.
Yeah. How do you think this one's going to trigger?
I have no idea. I think this one's probably a story, like you had suggested before when we talked about some of the Red Witch stuff. I think you're probably correct. I think this will probably be maybe Seer will talk about it. Maybe it has something to do with Pariah, but I doubt it. That's another thing to note. It doesn't look like Red Witches will have any of the Pariah crossover stuff. Maybe. There's one we think could be, but...
That's the next one. Mm-hmm. So the next event is... This one was hard for us to decipher, so we're thinking it's called Man with the Golden Mask, or maybe Man with the Golden Mark. So if it is Man with the Golden Mask, it might be a reference to the Pariah. The Pariah wears a mask. Mm-hmm. It's more like flesh-colored, obviously, in some of his artwork. But
you can barely tell.
This could be like a reference to like before he transformed, or if he did transform, we don't know, into what he is now. or just completely something.
We could be wrong.
Something we don't even expect.
It might not be Man with the Golden Mask. These are just our best estimates.
Mm-hmm.
It might not be that. It might. I mean, it does really look like it says something with a golden something. So, we're doing our best. Speaking of doing our best.
The next one's equally kind of like questionable. We went back and forth on this one quite a bit. We think it says the princess and the dragon, or the princess and the griffin. So griffin makes sense. Obviously, the elastomer, as
dragon
well
makes
as
sense too.
The inverted mountain kind of stuff. But yeah, like Bra said, dragon also makes sense. We've gotten in a lore blurb before that the red witching cloaks are made from the stomach lining of a red dragon. Mm-hmm. So I'm kind of hoping for that. We've talked about it in the past, a long time ago now. They teased a miniature for like this kind of dragonfly monster, and my thoughts are that is a tease for the red dragon monster itself. Will that be included in the Red Witches expansion? Who knows? Seems like quite a bit of scope creep, and we haven't seen any other mention of it, but maybe that'll just be a reference to it, and then we'll see the miniature at a later time, or maybe they'll turn like that into a 5-year campaign or something like that.
The next three all appear maybe to be showdown stuff, or who knows, but they're all, the next three are all similar. So the next one is Red Cannon, which we saw. Then there's Red Incursion, which we spoke about is the thing that's triggered from the red cloaks. And then it says Red Witch Trials, which...
So I guess just quickly to explain like the Red Incursion thing. So the Red Witches use this cloak, the witching cloak or whatever they call it, to switch places with a like a red cloak, white speaker initiate. Mm-hmm. So they're able to kind of like transport these initiates into wherever they're going to escape danger, basically. So it seems like we'll be able to, once we have one of these cloaks, we'll be able to kind of like randomly switch places with a white speaker initiate and kind of be thrown into whatever situation they were in at the time of switching. I don't know how much control we'll have over that. I'm actually excited to see kind of like the shenanigans that could, because there's like a lot of funny story potential, right?
Well,
with that kind of...
it's funny in both ways, because in theory, they're swapping. Mm-hmm. So that means then there's also a red cloak gets, or they might just be called cloaks. I forget what they're called, but either way, one of those will be joining the hunting party.
So I'm really curious to see if this ends up being some kind of like mini encounter or something like that, where you have to fight red cloaks.
Definitely not.
During your... Well, I don't think they'd be very happy about being just swapped in and out of whatever place they're in, right?
I just meant it's definitely not going to be an encounter mechanically.
Oh, mechanically, probably not. I'm not going to say no, but like we do have the red cloak minis in the expansion. Taking a lot of L's in videos lately, so I'm willing to take a couple more. We'll see.
And then the third one was Red Witch Trials, which I have no idea what this is. I don't know. It could be something pariah thing. Probably looks more like the image we saw for Seer. Where
I think this is going to be pariah related.
Yeah.
There's a whole page of rules before this that we didn't have access to, right? So
yes, but it would be, you'd think there'd be a lot. How to use synergy content would be like a whole. I mean, if the node system is its own page, you would think synergy content would be its own page too.
Like what I think this is going to end up being is how, the whole point of the Red Witches is that they're tracking the pariah, and this might be the aftermath of maybe you defeating the pariah, or I don't know. I'm not really sure. No, and it's like it's hard to tell like between the two expansions, like which one's going to cover the stuff the most. Like, yes. You know what I mean?
Yes. I think this one has a high likelihood that if there's going to be a crossover synergy story in Red Witches and not all of it's in Pariah, this would be one of them. I agree with you.
So the next event is Sanguine Extrusion. We saw this in the Black Friday update. Yep. It's very, very small image, so it's not possible to read, but this is kind of the Red Witch equivalent to the Sense Memory event in Flower Knight or Light Forging in Slenderman, where it's a settlement event that exists as a story event, or sorry, settlement location that exists as a story event. So this is how you can make the Red Witch gear, presumably with the elastomer that you harvest from elastomer mines. And then as well as on the image that we did see, it did show that you required a blood skin for things. So blood skin was one of the rare gear cards that came with the original White Speaker white box.
And also in the 1.6 card pack.
That's right. Yeah, it's a legendary card pack. So, is it going to be reprinted in Red Witches, do you think? Or is that just going to be like a little side, like,
I think
if you have this, do this instead?
I would think, just based on lore and stuff, I would think a bloodskin would be the kind of thing you'd expect to find on all White Speakers, right? It's kind of like a magic pouch. You know what I mean?
Magic pouch.
It's like
actually, term. Magic doesn't exist.
I was using a D&D term. It's spellcaster's pouch.
I know. Yeah, the component pouch or whatever.
Component pouch.
In the White Speaker white box, you could get 2 pieces of White Speaker gear for trade. So the Speaker Cult Knife, which had a cost of 1 times population, 3 random resources, and then 1 times iron. And then the Blood Skin was also 1 population, 3 random resources, and 1 organ. So I imagine a lot of these pieces of gear will require like a population cost, I suppose, in order to craft them.
Yeah. Maybe. Not all of them, but I agree. Yes, there'll be some that cost population.
Yeah. Then the other kind of I guess hint towards that would be the Globensnarfer beta sword.
Yes.
With Vittenvox.
No.
Oh no, sorry, not Vittenvox.
Astri's like counterpart. What's her name?
Too many characters now. We're forgetting the names of everything.
Gunborg,
that's right, yeah. So same thing, there's -1 population cost for Globensnarfer. It actually costs 5 population, 1 iron, and 3 bone. So it's been like a consistent gear cost across speaker-related items.
Next. This is our biggest guess of all of them, I think. And it's gonna sound like a bad guess because it's so vague, but we think the next one is called Secret Chamber.
It's very fitting for White Speakers, though.
It is. I mean, I wouldn't have said it if it was a bad guess. I'm just saying it sounds super vague.
Yeah, this one, the first word is really hard to read. So
yes,
we know it's chamber. It's something chamber. So our guesses are either secret chamber or infant chamber.
Yes.
Infant chamber is possible because again, that image on this page with Fade running away from the Red Witch after stealing the Sword of Silence and her child. There's some kind of like fertility statue in the center.
Yes.
So the lore for this is that the White Speakers are forbidden from like having children. So how do they regenerate their numbers? And they steal children, or is there some other kind of literally other way to get them?
Oh, I see what you did there.
Ooh, yeah, thanks. So we'll see, I guess, but that's kind of our best guess for this event.
Yeah. I could go either way. It's something chamber. Secret makes sense. So does infant. They both make sense. And that appears to be the end of the story events. Then you've got Showdown Brawl, which is level 1. Showdown Brawl and Nico, which is level 2. Showdown Brawl, Nico and Seer is the level 3. That's pretty much it. The fact that they each have their own Showdown page is really interesting, because if you remember, other examples are like Lion Knight has different rewards, but he only has one showdown page, even though he's got each of his reward tables are different for his 3 levels. He's got one showdown page. So the fact that there's 3 showdown pages here means that these could be vastly different showdowns and setups.
Yeah.
These, it's the variety. It's like really, really neat to think about how just how different they each could possibly be.
Yeah. And then one of the recent things they've been doing with the newer expansions, so Frog Dog and Black Knight, is they have a gallery section now at the end of the book. Mm-hmm. So Red Witches will have that. And then a glossary as well. So again, that suggests that maybe there's a bit more rules involved in this book.
I think
that requires its own glossary. Typically, like in Echoes of, or I've done that so many times lately. In Expansions of Death 1 sets, so like Gorm and all that, all their glossary terms are at the very beginning of the book in the rules section, but this expansion is separating them out into the back.
Knight, that was the case.
Yeah.
So the fact that it's got a glossary at the end is, one, it could just be because it's very spoilery. I could see putting him at the end because like maybe some of the abilities are like very spoilery, so to put them at the front of the book. But or there's just a lot. I have a feeling there's probably like maybe it's for once we're getting a quick reference. Quick reference would be so awesome for like, handling terms for the movement, like initiative order and all this stuff. Like that'd be nice. Again, the boxes do that, so which is great. So that's pretty much it for Red Witches. We can talk about some other notable things we saw. But again, there's not much to see here. Each of them have life, so that's interesting. They'll always have life, even when they're fought like by themselves. So that's like a whole different. A monster that is always life based is new. Usually, it's only like legendary variants and things.
Right. There are some rules for Red Witches and other campaigns, so. This is something they haven't done before, but they tell you exactly how to how to use Red Witches to replace other monsters, or how do the rules interact with other campaigns. So specifically like Dreamkeeper, People of the Sun, and People of the Stars. So it goes a bit into that, and nothing too juicy, I guess, though, as far as a discussion topic.
Well, they're not like Smog Singers.
They're not like Smog Singers, no.
Each monster is its own entity. They give examples of how to the stats that you dump on from. If you debuff Brawl, you're not debuffing all the monsters. You're debuffing Brawl. And it goes.
That's right.
Yeah, it goes in. It explains it. Uses the Lance of Longinus as like an example. So, you're not wounding them collectively like you do Smog Singers. So it's interesting.
I like this take, I guess, on multiple monsters better. Like, I think it would have almost been. It just makes more sense, right? Like, it doesn't make sense that the Smog Singers, like, one of them could be off in the corner, like the whole showdown, and then you're wounding them, and then it just suddenly dies, right?
Yep.
So yeah, I think this makes a little bit more sense. Obviously, the card trays make this way more convenient to run the showdown. I think that's a great design.
Yeah. I think Red Witches is going to be great. It reads great. The rules, like giving examples, using Lance of Longinus, giving very concrete examples. It's great. Yeah. So I really liked reading it. So.
Did you go over that Meteoric Warrior card when you did your
I did
last video?
Not.
Okay, we can talk about that really quickly, I guess, if you want. So in one of the trays, it showcased. It's not like this isn't a hard to read card, so it's kind of just out in the middle for anybody to out in the open for anybody to read. This is one of Brawl's legendary AI cards called Meteoric Warrior. Most importantly, it does a no target dejected see below clause. and then its flow after it does its move and attack target. So its flow, it says, search the AI deck and discard for Bone Crunch Punch, Meteoric Axe Kick, and Meteoric Throw. So you're searching both the AI deck and the discard pile to find these AI cards, and then play them all in order, one at a time, then reshuffle the AI deck. So you're going to be hit with like 4 AI in a row, basically. And then this is a new mechanic, I guess, or a new kind of development. New. Well, like the dejected thing. So it's like almost like a persistent injury box at the bottom of a card, but it just says dejected, brawl, gains -1 toughness token, discard this card. This is a really cool design space, and it adds a lot of future potential, I guess, for AI cards and making them more unique. It's not just no target
basic
to
action.
Your instinct or whatever. You can make every card unique, basically.
Every card unique.
How a monster acts. I think that's really good design space. I'm surprised it took this long to enter this space, actually. But
yeah, I mean, this card doesn't joke around either.
No, it'll mess you up.
Yeah,
and we haven't even seen the other cards yet.
Yeah, it doesn't look like. It also doesn't look like Red Witch's joke around. Because you can see Brawl, who is again the level 1. That means this can be your Lantern Year 8 fight. Presumably, nothing in the rules say it needs to be Lantern Year 8. It just says you replace Armored Strangers. She could show up at Lantern Year 6 with the story event. Who knows? But just saying, she's got 4 speed on her basic action for a possible Lantern Year 8. Lantern Year 6 fight is kind of nuts.
Yeah, I mean, her accuracy is not super great, but still, she's very likely to hit you with that, right?
Yes, twice at least. Even if you've got like
and bash,
typical,
yeah. And then her and they're not even like hard target actions either. Closest threat and range, closest survivor. So it's like somebody is going to get hit by this.
Mm-hmm.
The only like saving grace is if her movement is pretty low. Like if she has like 4 or 5 movement or something like that, it might be pretty easy to kite her. If she has 4, maybe. But if she had 4, she'd be very, very slow. Like, what does Butcher have?
Accuracy or speed? Which one?
Movement.
Movement 5.
Okay, so I'm thinking probably around there then.
Mm-hmm.
Just slow, but like if she catches you, you're gonna feel the pain, kind of thing. So moving on, the next set of images is the Wanderers, with the first up being the Death Drifter. This is the Kingdom Death Hyper Light Drifter crossover. So this page, there's not a ton in his Wanderer booklet, but there is a couple neat little things. So in Hyper Light Drifter, the game, there is an entire, like, the game doesn't really feature a lot of dialogue, but there's kind of like a hidden backstory that can be revealed by decrypting a cipher in game. So that cipher is being used in this Wanderer booklet. So the title of the page is at the top in a cipher, and we have gone through the pain of translating that for you guys. This one is much more complicated than the Kingdom Death cipher. So has like an extra step of difficulty. Yeah. So his cipher says, or the title of this page says, introduction. So nothing crazy, but just kind of, I guess, an introduction to the idea that there is a cipher in Hyper Light Drifter. The page itself has the following text. It just says, Death Drifter joins the settlement, create his record sheet, and increase the settlement's population by 1, and then roll 1d10. On a 1 to 3, Death Drifter suffers -1 disposition. So disposition was a new kind of stat, I guess, for Wanderer specifically, on like
correct
how much they're liked by the settlement. That was introduced in Gambler's Chest. 4 to 7, Death Drifter and another survivor gain +1 understanding. And then 8 to 10, Death Drifter gains +1 disposition. Nominate 3 other survivors to gain +1 symbol strength. So these new Wanderers feature a symbol that hasn't been used in the game yet. So we have some thoughts on that, if you want to talk about that.
Well, I mean, there's really only one thought that I have One, it could mean anything. And by that, I mean the positioning of where this symbol is really only lends itself to making sense if it means one thing. And if it doesn't mean that thing, it could mean anything. So when all these books, we'll talk about, as you can see, I know it's blurry for us too. It's ridiculous, but it says +1, and then the symbol is there, and then it says strength. That has to say permanent. It must mean +1 permanent strength, just because of the fact it's after the 1 and before the strength. If it doesn't mean +1 permanent strength, I have no idea what it could mean, and it could mean anything.
If it's not permanent, it might be like some kind of like new class of stats, I guess, versus, temporary versus permanent. Like, it's really only the two options right now.
It's really only the two options.
Yeah, we do agree though. It probably is like a permanent like stat, permanent attribute, if you want to use the game terms. And we thought about this a little bit, like, why would this need to exist? And one of the conversations that came up a lot after Gambler's Chess came out with knowledge cards was, do knowledge cards grant you like a temporary attribute bonus, or is it a permanent attribute bonus?
Yes.
Where
the main thing this would be helpful for currently is things like Frog Dog has a hit location with a critical wound that says if you're insane and adjacent, or if you take like two brain damage, and then if you're still insane and adjacent to the Frog Dog, you gain +1 luck, and it just says gain +1 luck, and that's for all survivors, all adjacent ones that are still insane after the brain damage that are still adjacent, gain +1 luck. That one is commonly like, well, this is just a crit effect that doesn't archive. The hit location doesn't archive itself. You could use Dagger Mastery and keep getting this and get a whole bunch of luck. Is that a permanent luck? But yes, it is a permanent luck. So like in those situations, it'd be nice to have an icon.
Yeah. So there isn't a ton of content, obviously, as I just went through it on the actual first page of the Death Drifter Wanderer page, but we do see some extra details in his little box that he's got. So we're getting some new survivor record sheets.
He's a video game. He's your typical video game protagonist, right? He doesn't speak in his game. Is that correct?
That's right.
Yes. So this makes sense.
Yeah, I think it's a clever way to acknowledge that aspect of him being like based off of video game protag. So again, like that's all it is for the content. We don't know much more. We've seen a little bit of the artwork in some of the older updates, but it is cool to see that we are getting some new like slimmed down survivor record sheets. They look like they're folded in half. We don't really know what the other half looks like. And
they're either
the only like
folded in halves so you could cut them easily. Maybe they're perforated. But I think the other side will be knowledges.
Mm-hmm. And there looks like there might be another little hint to the non-verbal aspect of Death Drifter. It appears, and this is maybe take it with a grain of salt, but he has encourage X'd out on his survivor record sheet. So he's got the dodge survival action, and then he's also got fist pump below. So again, that suggests that he's using some kind of like sign language versus verbally speaking.
Yep, I agree.
We also see some of his other card content. So he's got a fighting art in the very back of the pack called Chain Dash. In the game, Chain Dash lets you do a bunch of like very quick movements in succession. So I'm interested to see how that translates to Kingdom Death. And the one card on the very top is Death Drifter Cloak. So Death Drifter Cloak has the keywords item, cloth, and other, and it has the special rule irreplaceable. And it says after you roll 1d10 as part of a Death Drifter knowledge or fighting art, you may change the result to a Lantern 10, limit once per round. So this is very obviously going to combo with things like Chain Dash, where you can adjust your rolls to be more successful at doing it.
Or presumably roll a dice to continue dashing.
And this is kind of cool, actually, because this is the first time that a gear card has directly referenced the new keywords that a lot of like new expansions are using. Like they'll say like Black Knight or Frog Dog or, you know, Seed or whatever, kind of giving context to where the card came from. So we've never had a gear card reference a keyword like that before, right? Like this is specifically only when a survivor performs a Death Drifter knowledge or fighting art.
So that's it for Death Drifter. Just we can't tell if all Death Drifter's the only one of the Wanderers we could see the survival actions. So we don't know if they all have fist pump or not. I think maybe they do all have fist pump, but I agree with you. He's probably a silent protag. Next up, we've got Goth Aenaes, who is interestingly called Wanderer Goth. Rules page, I guess you would call this. Either way, for the Wanderers, if using Luck as an example, this is where you get to see how to create his record sheet and to see all of his... for Luck, it's his ability that keeps him alive, and then it gives his tenant and his neurosis. So whatever page this is, that's what we get to see. I'm going to say it's the rules page for Goth Aenaes. And we get to see a little bit of cards, so we'll talk about those. But for Goth Aenaes, we have her main weapon here is the common katana, and it's weapon melee katana finesse metal. It has 2 speed, 6+ accuracy, 4 strength. And then it says silent weapon. When you attack with this, cancel all reaction failure during your attack if you have no armor gear in your grid. Very interesting.
It's a pretty powerful ability.
Yeah,
like,
it's very powerful.
Definitely some builds that could take advantage of this, like rolling armor kind of thing, right?
Yes. It also lends to her being pretty early because it's a 4 strength katana. It's pretty early in the game. Like 4 strength is not very high. So I think this lends to her. I don't know exactly what it had said. I think it said Lantern Year 3 on her pitch. That would be pretty strong for Lantern Year 3, but I do think she'll be pretty early based on the fact that it's a 4 strength weapon, 6+ here. It's not like super powerful.
Could also be really improved upon if we get any kind of like novel katana proficiency in COD or heliocentrism.
Yeah, she could get new katanas even, because she does have 2 katanas. She does dual wield, so she could have a better one that she gets later. As this one,
we can see there's a second gear card underneath her common katana in the image, right? So,
and that's what I was about to say. It is called common katana.
So uncommon katana, rare katana.
But so this is her thing is interesting.
Yeah.
So
we talked a little bit about the lore before.
Yes.
In the last updates, it kind of suggested that she was like hurt by like clinging mist almost, right? And it like damaged her skin.
To get this, as we talk with Hyperlight Drifter, he comes from a video game. Goth Aenaes comes from Zombie Side.
Right.
Just that's worth noting with what we're about to talk about.
It's very worth noting. Yeah. So we had talked about this before. The artwork showed kind of, it looked like Goth Aenaes was going through clinging mist and it like burned her flesh and really like scarred her basically. And there's other artwork of her applying makeup, trying to hide it. So it was leaning into this kind of zombie imagery. Undead doesn't exist in Kingdom Death, as far as we know at this time. So it's like, how do you bring that to Kingdom Death without making it literal undead monsters? So yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so I don't remember exactly what this was for Luck. I don't even know. I don't think they gave it a thing, but her thing is called Disintegration. And I think that's just the name of her philosophy.
Yeah, his is called like the Blessed First or something.
Blessed First.
No, the Blessed First.
Blessed First. So I don't know. I don't know take it as you will. This one's called Disintegration.
It's kind of like the philosophy name, I guess,
Yeah.
of the Wanderer, right?
Yeah, I get. Yeah, I guess. But then, so the Neurosis, again, these are all Wanderers are Arc survivors, even if you're using them in a non-Arc survivor game. They still ponder and all that. So she will always abide by her Neurosis, which is called Rotter. And then her Tenant, which is interesting. I mentioned this even in the update, but we'll talk about it again because Amy's the one you can see here. Her Tenant is Adrenaline. And you can see Adrenaline 1 is the knowledge card, but then also the fighting art is called Adrenaline. So how that works, I don't know, but it seems to really suggest that you'll be able to use these Wanderers without using Arc Settlements, which will be cool. So her Neurosis, which is Rotter, when you depart, set your armor points at each location to 0 after factoring all bonuses. When you are a returning survivor, you devour another. Suffer -1 population. The settlement does not gain the benefits of their death principle. So it's not a zombie. She's definitely not a zombie. It's a rotter.
Yeah. We were joking around about how like sometimes zombie media will
Yes.
the
Walking
things
Dead
that
are
are zombies,
walkers.
not zombies. Yeah,
Yeah.
the walkers or the Zeds or
Yeah.
whatever. So Rotter is a very interesting. Obviously, this combos with the common katana pretty well because you're fulfilling its criteria basically. It's not great for Amy though. Do you think? Like the one part we haven't seen is the Adrenaline Tenet. So maybe,
we don't know what the knowledges do, and we don't know. Well, we do know maybe kind of she interacts with like Inner Lantern and people dying from the one time 3 years ago when we translated her. When the last time we decided to go insane and translate the lore Ipsum from the Kingdom Death Cipher into
yeah. But how much of that is still
that's what I said. Yeah,
applies to this, right?
Who knows? Yeah.
She comes with both knowledge and fighting art cards for Adrenaline. So that's the only time we've seen something similar to that is with the Tumble fighting art. Also has its own knowledge cards, unrelated to each other. So we haven't seen them come together in like a set before.
Well, excluding these Wanderers, all these from the Wanderers, we could see they all do this.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of a little bit of speculation. Like we know that Death Drifter has knowledge or fighting art based on the Death Drifter cloak, but are they the same fighting art and knowledge card, or are they different?
That's true. Yeah.
That's to be determined.
Correct.
But it is interesting to show that like fighting arts and knowledges are kind of adjacent to each other. Like they could make any knowledge or any fighting art like into the other card if they wanted to, technically.
Correct. The only thing we could make the inference because the Death Drifter cloak says when you roll with a knowledge or fighting art, a Death Drifter knowledge or fighting art, meaning that they're both probably acting the same. They both probably require the rolls.
Yeah, at least. But again, I don't think it really confirms that.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying it's likely.
Yeah, I mean, it is likely. I agree with that.
Next, we have Aenaes.
Yeah, Aenaes.
Aenaes is super interesting.
Aenaes had a lot of content, like in the booklet here, like more than any of the others that we've seen so far. Appears to have some very interesting rules included in the box.
Yes, so if you want to read this page.
Yeah, so this appears to be the second page of the Wanderer booklet, and the story is called The Boy and the Wolves, and it says, through mouthfuls of food, Aenaes recounts her youth spent training as a centurion of a moonwolf tribe. Strength and vitality were valued over all other virtues. Slim of limb and anemic of spirit, the demure boy was mercilessly mocked and persistently spurred. Roll 1d10 and add Aenaes' disposition to the result. On a 1 to 6, Aenaes stops chewing. Your stomach sinks as she relives her harsh training. The chill of, and we couldn't figure out this word, but the chill of something falls against the icy stone ground, stone noses jutting into the feeble child's bony frame. And then there's a little bit of other translation errors, but it says something in that something. Her appetite vanishes, and she gains 1 symbol torment and either +10 or +20 insanity. So we're seeing this maybe like permanent torment, and it's applied to like the special arc attributes. So it's not just, strength, speed, luck, the classic survivor attributes. It's extended to arcs as well.
Well, no, this is specifically, as I said, all wanderers are arcs, even if you use them in a non-arc. And it's she who's gaining it, so she will always have the torment, because she is an arc.
The next result, 7 to 10, Aenaes cackles in between bites, admiring the muscular arms that hold her meal. Something, her belly that purrs with satisfaction, the ruddy complexion of a powerful being that has surpassed those that mock her. She howls triumphantly, flecks of food flying from her mouth. She gains +1 symbol strength, +1 symbol speed, and +1 courage. And then the next result, 11+. Despite Aenaes' rejection, she carries the spirit of the Moonwolf clan more than ever. A long-buried technique exhaustingly drilled for lantern years emerges from her memory. She gains +1 symbol luck and either the knowledge or fighting art of Moonwolf style. So this is
we say that because it's the card icon.
Right, yeah, it's the card icon, so we can't really distinguish
it will either say
fighting
K
art
or
knowledge
FA
right,
or K. It will likely say K or SFA. I bet these are secret fighting arts.
Yeah, maybe. But again, like you said, she is an arc survivor, right? So it very well could just be a knowledge card or both. We'll see. The really cool card that we see in her box is for a new innovation called Culling Cuisine. So this has the keywords Aenaes and food. And it says, departing survivors may eat the weak. Limit once per settlement phase. Eat the weak allows you to do the following. The settlement culls a survivor -1 population. This lantern year, departing survivors gain the benefits corresponding to the something of the survivor that was culled. So if you cull a survivor with 0 hunt XP, you gain +1 strength token. And this is important to note, that doesn't say the symbol here. It's just +1 strength token. If the survivor you culled is retired, you gain +1 strength token and +1 luck token. We think it says if the survivor that you cull has 4+ permanent injuries.
Departing survivors, just to be clear.
Sorry?
Departing survivors gain these tokens, not just one survivor.
Yes, yeah, the whole departing survivor group. So we think this one says if the culled survivor has 4+ permanent injuries, you gain +1 strength token, and this departing survivor with the highest strength attribute gains the Moonwolf style knowledge / fighting art, whatever it turns out to be.
Yeah, whatever it turns out.
So this innovation is pretty crazy because it gives it gives settlements a way to kind of like get rid of their garbage survivors, I guess.
Yeah, or just not their garbage, just ones that are retired that normally can't do anything. Like if you don't have Shadow Caesar or whatever. But the +4 permanent injury, or 4 or more permanent injuries, that would be a garbage survivor, probably, highly likely.
Yeah. Someone who can barely move, can't swing a two-handed weapon, can't use weapons over, what is it, the 1 strength or whatever.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, the game hasn't really ever given us a way to do anything with those survivors. They typically end up being kind of like intimacy, like fodder, I guess. I don't really like talking about survivors like this. It feels like the same way I was talking about that no-name survivor from the update. Like, I feel so impersonal, but yeah, it's definitely a very interesting development.
Yeah, this is great innovation. I love this innovation.
So one of the other pieces that we can see in the box, there's like a token kind of card. that you would put next to your survivor, presumably. It's got a paragraph that we can't read. It's being blocked out, but it has a second paragraph that says, at the end of the round, you spend one, or at the end of your act, spend one survival, unless you've attacked this turn. The first time you wound a quarry monster this lantern year, gain one random monster resource from that monster. So this is like another way to just gain extra resources, basically, and it just depends on what that first paragraph says. And it looks like there might be a space for like a token,
yeah,
like
it looks like
to hold a
for
token
tokens,
or a model or something.
Yep, or for a survivor, it looks like a circle.
Yeah,
we don't know what it is, but it's definitely neat.
Yeah, it's just another way to like differentiate survivors. Like in the future, there's potential for them to do more kind of distinguishing things like this, right?
Yeah, I mean, this could also be Aenaes's gimmick.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, Aenaes is shaping up to be a very interesting survivor, a very interesting wanderer. I'm really looking forward to it.
If this is Aenaes's gimmick, this is the type of thing that would make you want to take a wanderer with you all the time, which is a hard barrier of entry, right? I've thought about this. You know, one of the things why luck comes too late to really make this, but when you, early in the game, let's say you get a survivor who joins Lantern Year 6 or something like that, right? It's hard to replace your A team when you're going for masteries. Because using a temporary survivor like this, if I'm assuming they're like Luck and would gain extra hunt experience. I think that was a wanderer's thing. They'd gain extra hunt experience to go through their philosophy faster. Might have just been Luck because he came so late, but still. You do have to wonder the return on investment of investing into a temporary survivor. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And this would definitely do it. Getting extra monster resources would be a good reason, especially early game.
You kind of have this idea that there's going to be different wanderers. There's going to be like hunt wanderers and then support wanderers.
Yes, we're going to talk about that.
Settlement. One thing, though, I just noticed when looking at this is Aenaes comes with an indomitable resource. So you can see the corner of it stuck in the back there, but you can see like the little ribbon that's on the indomitable resource cards, and then the kind of transition from gray to light gray.
You are correct.
So
I never noticed
what monster does Aenaes have an IR for? We don't know, but maybe it'll be a couple. Who knows?
Yeah.
And then it doesn't look like she has any gear cards, so it might be like one of the Smog Singer IRs. It doesn't give you like a pattern card or anything like that, right?
And it could be buried underneath these other cards, bridge cards. I know all the other ones have their gear cards on top, but never know.
You never know. So yeah, looking forward to that. She also looks like she comes with a card divider or something too. So hopefully all these wanderers have card dividers for
themselves,
their content.
Yep. Especially with how much there is.
Yeah.
It was less of a thing with Luck. He only had he had his gear and then he had like 3 knowledges.
Yeah, that's right. But having innovations and all kinds of stuff,
and,
right?
Yeah, and resources.
So the next wonder is Candy and Cola. I'll let you take this one over.
So Candy and Cola. I'm super excited for Candy and Cola. I was already kind of really super excited for Candy and Cola for multiple reasons. One, originally, I thought her pitch was amazing with the Traveler. I've always thought her pitch was awesome, so I was always excited for Candy and Cola. Then after, before Gambler's Chest came out, when we started getting more into the Wanderers for the next wave and stuff, then we started to see her art and stuff, and then she got all that like really meta art that was even maybe more interested. And now that we've read this stuff, I'm even more interested.
Yeah, the Wanderers are really shaping out to be some of the stuff I'm most excited for from even this upcoming wave, right? The first wave coming up.
They are now my most excited thing for the wave because Screaming God's not coming.
They're offering a bunch of unique mechanics. They're offering a bunch of cool lore potential. And yeah, it just looks like Wanderers will be a good product.
Mm-hmm. So, Candy and Cola. This is her rank 2 that we see here. It's Bubbling Over is the name of the rank. Finding friendship in the settlement is the last ingredient. Candy's sparkling resolve to love erupts from a joyous stone face in the settlement. Glittering bubbles of saccharine excitement fill the air. The settlement gains the soda fountain innovation. Roll 1d10, add Candy's disposition to the result. On a 1 through 4, Fizzle. Candy's jubilation flies in the face of grieving survivors. Lose disposition equal to half the settlement's death count, rounded up. An awkward mood hangs over the survivors. The settlement loses 2 endeavors. On a 4 result, if you have Memento Mori, if the settlement has Memento Mori, Candy shares the grief of her adopted home. Her tears join their own. Candy gains 3 insanity, 2 understanding, and 3 teary tonic rare gear. 5 to 8, Pop. Unwavering camaraderie bursts the pall of a grim destiny in the settlement. Smiling determination meets every setback. Candy leads merriment, passing around bottles of sparkling refreshment. Gain +1 disposition. Candy gains the Soda Vendor ability. Soda Vendor ability. You may carry any number of soda rare gear outside of your gear grid. All sodas you carry must be different. You may give a soda gear to an adjacent survivor anytime during your act. 9+, Uplifting. Candy shares her transformative perspective. This lantern year, place Knowledge Reframe in the forum. Survivors may learn it for 1 less Lumi than it cost. Any survivor that gains Reframe this lantern year gains +1 and then the little symbol, evasion. So they're probably going to gain +1 evasion. The interesting thing here is the amount of rare gear that she's getting.
Yeah, she has a thick stack of gear cards in her box.
Yes. Well, let's talk about the innovation too, because this lends into what we think Soda Vendor actually is.
Well, the innovation, the soda fountain. Oh, you want to talk about the ability specifically?
Yeah, the ability, yeah.
I think talk about the gear card first and then talk about the ability afterwards, because I think it makes more sense.
All right.
So the gear card that comes with Candy and Cola, or the one that we can see at least, there's a lot of gear cards that come with Candy and Cola. It's called Amethyst Splash, and it's an item, consumable, fragile, soluble, and has a new keyword, soda. It also seems to have a new special word, or a special
gear special rule
called Trinket, and it's also unique. It has a affinity bonus that is a red and blue affinity, and during your act, you may consume and archive this to remove 3 bleeding tokens and erase all permanent injuries you suffered this showdown. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the trinket aspect of this card. So this is what kind of seems to link up with the Soda Vendor ability. So the Soda Vendor ability says you may carry any number of soda rare gear outside of your gear grid. And we're thinking that Trinket is a new special rule that allows you to carry a gear card out of your gear grid, but probably limited to 1. And then Soda Vendor would be the one that kind of overrides this.
Yes.
And if that's true, like, this is an awesome special rule, right? Like, there's so much potential in that space to make gear cards that exist outside. This is really good for consumable or archived gear. So it doesn't really feel like you're wasting a slot in your gear grid by archiving it. So yeah, I think that's really good. And obviously, if it is limited to 1, it's kind of like a valuable limit.
Yes, I think the word choice here is a huge sign, because they could have put this as soda, but the fact that they decided to call it Trinket likely means it's not going to be restricted to Candy and Cola.
Yeah.
The other thing was
I agree.
The amount of soda that she gains. She gains 3 of the rare gear for the 1 roll. The Teary Tonic. if all of those are trinkets, that would be enough for everyone to get one, which is interesting. Not everyone, but it'd be enough for you to take like 3 out if everybody could do that in their gear grid.
Yeah, so that's likely why she has so much gear, is because a lot of these sodas are probably like duplicated, right?
Yes, which
the
probably,
soda fountain innovation is probably like draw random soda rare gear card or something like that, right? Like you might be able to just get things from that. We're not sure. We can't see it. We can just see the name in the background. But
no, you do gain it from this rink.
Yeah, you gain the innovation, but what does the innovation itself do, right? That's my question.
Yeah, I'm assuming it will probably give you more. It's probably giving you a method of gaining it, gaining soda.
Mm-hmm. And then the other part of the gear card too is its actual ability. So the remove 3 bleeding tokens and erase all permanent injuries you suffered this showdown. So if you don't want to be called by eating the weak, like this is your chances by using
I think you'll still be limited to 1 wanderer per campaign.
Oh yeah, that's true. That is a rule, isn't it?
Yes.
But
maybe.
Technically
it was. We don't know the rules.
That's true.
It was
but if you're fighting Frog Dog and you gain a random random rare gear, you can gain what was this one called? Amethyst Splash, and technically save yourself from being called.
That's true.
Yeah. I think there's different rare gear that you'd rather pull than this, to be honest.
Yeah, maybe. It's not bad. I mean, if it's a free gear slot, then this is great. If it's not a free gear slot and like trinket means something else, I think trinket means you can carry it outside of your gear grid. I really do think that's what that will end up meaning.
I do as well, yeah.
I don't think there's any way. And it will say like you can carry 1 trinket outside of your gear grid.
So the last thing in the update was for Gatherism. This is the new philosophy that's coming out. The picture of the rulebook is quite small, so we can't actually make out. We could make out the intro paragraph, but we decided to leave that because without the context of the rules, it's kind of just fluff. But the one thing that we can read is the new resource card that's shown in the box, and this is called Wailing Rattle. Oh man, that's so hard to say. Wailing Rattlegrass. This is like a 3 times fast kind of tongue twister. Wailing Rattlegrass. The keywords are herb and we think maybe arc. It might be arc exclusive. And then it has the perishable special rule. This was introduced in the Flower Knight expansion. And basically, how does perishable work?
If
you have to archive it after the end of the show, or after the end of the Sunlit phase.
Yes, you have to archive it at the end of the Sunlit phase.
So there is some play in Flower Knight camp or Flower Knight expansion with bringing perishable gear with you using a special bag, but it looks like the Vespertine. What is it? The Vespertine bag or something like that?
Satchel.
Can't remember. Yeah, the Vespertine satchel. Can't remember the names of anything right now. No, just satchel.
Yeah.
Whatever.
There's also a knowledge.
Yeah, there's a knowledge. So this wasn't in the box, but we saw this in a previous update. It's called Hamarokori, and it says you may depart with 1 resource card. If that resource is perishable, it is not destroyed. So this also obviously works with this kind of resource. And it says at the start of any hunt turn before hunt events are revealed, you may sow a resource, archive it to gain plus monster level survival. But the card itself, the Wailing Rattlegrass, it says when the monster performs reaction, you may archive this to cancel the reaction and have all non-death survivors suffer star monster level brain damage. And then it's kind of fluff is it screams vigorously when shaken.
Yeah.
So we were kind of joking that it maybe should have the noisy keyword. Noisy is kind of exclusively a gear keyword, but there's kind of some flexibility to keywords, it seems, nowadays. So I don't know.
It's true.
But again, this kind of like fulfills that same role as these trinket gear cards, right? Potentially, in that they are utility items that you can bring that exist outside of your gear grid and allow you to perform an additional action or however you want to phrase it.
Yes.
Without taking up room.
And notably about this one, it isn't one of the terrain.
That's right.
It might be. I mean, there could be a second.
Well, yeah, we don't know if we've seen all the terrain yet.
We don't know if we've seen all the terrain, but it's not one of those three that we can clearly see.
But I mean, to be fair, like the 2 terrain tokens, like we've seen the redbeard grass or whatever, redbeard plant, but we haven't seen what the other 2 terrain tiles there do.
Yes.
So it could be related to one of those, but that's
it could be
to be determined.
Yep. So you have to ask yourself, how do you get this stuff? So I'm thinking that event that's in here is very robust. There's probably a lot of options from that event. Because this doesn't seem like super powerful to the point where you get it like once or twice via like a rank level up, right? And then you save it all campaign because you're only going to have this one. It's a perishable resource. There must be some way of getting it reliably, so you could maybe use it if you want. I find it hard to believe that it would be something where you couldn't get repeatedly if it's perishable and not super strong. It's incentivizing you to take it with you and use it. So,
yeah, and I mean, this also looks like a pretty thick stack of cards that are all like bridge size, so they might all be resources. There could be some innovations stuck in here.
We do know there's gear, but there's 2 bags here, so
yeah. And I mean, that's a good point towards what you had said about Aenaes earlier, because the Gatherism knowledge card is obviously there, or a philosophy card, but the gear might be underneath that, right? So yeah, this is looking to also be a very interesting addition to the game. I will say we haven't translated the page or unveiled the page. It's not really translating, but it does mention Fresh Acanthus quite a few times in there.
Yeah.
It seems like there's a new ability that allows you to gain Fresh Acanthus when you depart in exchange for some bleeding tokens. But there's obviously the kind of intent with Gatherism is there's going to be quite a bit of interplay with like the plant ecology of Kingdom Death. So, and
unlike the Wanderers, this is a philosophy where you're going to be gaining it on multiple survivors, right?
Right.
You're going to see this page multiple times, whereas the Wanderers, you're only going to see them once. So there's more like less mechanic driven for the Wanderer. It's more story. This is probably a lot of mechanics, and we're missing that context. So trying to translate it, we probably wouldn't be as helpful.
Yeah. So that's the update, or like that's the in-depth look at the kind of teaser images we've gotten in this update.
Yeah, quite a bit.
What are you most excited for out of the bunch?
Out of the bunch, candy.
Candy and cola?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think I might be.
I mean, there's parts of the other one, like.
There's all of them I'm so interested in. I'm having a really hard time picking which one I'm the most interested in.
I think I mostly side with candy because of the trinket thing and like just how cool that is.
And I want to say Aenaes because I want to see more of this this food aspect of it. But then Death Drifter, like the combat focus side of like a Wanderer seems very interesting.
Yes, I think it looks like we're getting a nice balance. It looks like Aenaes and Candy and Cola are going to be like settlement / departing support aspects of the game, whereas it looks like Hyperlight Drifter and Goth Amy very weapon focused and knowledge, like combat focused.
Right. And I think it sets the bar pretty high for future Wanderers. Like we know we're going to get Wanderers additional to this. Like we've seen crests for them in some of the updates, as well as Gambler's Chest kind of featured some characters that we haven't seen yet.
Preacher.
Yeah, we were supposed to get one coming up here, but I think the release was delayed, is what Tasted said, in exchange for Kickstarter related content, which I'm sure most people are going to be okay with. Okay, well, yeah, that's the update. Thanks for watching the video. Let us know in the comments what you're most excited about out of this content. What did you find the most interesting? What kind of gear card would you turn into a trinket if you could, I guess, is kind of one of the questions I would have. One of the existing gear cards.
Like One Eye.
One Eye as a trinket, yeah.